questions to get to, and I know I want to circle back, and I want to ask you a little bit more about TV production as opposed to writing, because I'm fascinated about the differences and similarities between the two. But I know that we absolutely have to talk about Sid Rubin's Silicon Alley Adventure series, the newest of which, Say Her Name, is available December 10th. Don't let us get too far in without reminding esteemed audience that they, depending on when they're listening to this, can either pre-order or go right out and read Say Her Name, or start with book 1 on a LARP. Now we're talking.
Okay, see, I come with visual, aids.
Congratulations to you on completing your trilogy. That is extremely exciting. That must be tremendously fulfilling.
It is, and the nicest part is the growth that you get to experience. I say, in Say Her Name, the mystery is perhaps the least mysterious of the mysteries, because it's the most emotional of the books, and so it was really, for me, a pleasure.
And I'm going to pretend I didn't already ask you about this. Do you have ambitions to potentially write a 4th book?
I have ambitions. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, and that I have a fourth story. I might even have a 5th, but I also may want to just take a break, write something different, and then come back. I haven't really decided yet. When I finish a book, I think people, I hope the audience that is listening to this have heard this and felt this in their own lives. You kind of hear the voices of the people in your head. It's as though they are chatting with you, chatting by themselves, chatting about things you didn't even know you needed to chat about. And so as you're finishing and the writing is flowing and you're coming to that end and you're racing home, they're still talking. So you have this wonderful time in which, the thought is almost pure. And so you just really want to go write the next book, but you need to stop because you need to edit this one because it has a date that it has to go to the marketplace. And so during that period, I have this absolute clarity of what I'd like the next book to be. Now that I had to hold up and do the editing and all of that, I asked them to just please wait over there. And the question is, do you open the trunk and go back to that and hope that that voice is still right where you left it and you can bring it back out? Or do you just want to take a break and write something different? I haven't quite decided yet. I love Sid Rubin and her pals, so I could write the Sid Rubin Silicon Alley Adventures all day. It's fun for me.
Well, I assume that because you're going through, multiple revisions, and I know it's certainly a part of my process and most process of all the folks I've chatted with, that you get to a point where you still love the characters, but you kind of hate them a little bit too, just because you spent so much time with them. It's time for a little bit of a break, maybe a little vacation away from each other, and then we'll come back more in love than ever. When you've written 3 books, do you, or even 2, do you feel that need for a break, or do you feel just boundless enthusiasm? Let's do Sydney Goes Hawaiian. Let's do this.
I think for me, the hardest part is feeling I didn't want to do, I'll just say part of the inspiration for the whole Sid Rubin Silicon Alley Adventure series comes from my great love of the mysteries that I read growing up. So you had the Hardy Boys, you had Nancy Drew, and all of those, and you kind of graduated into the Agatha Christie's and then Niall Marsh. And so Sid is an outgrowth of that love, and those are very dated. I'm not talking about Agatha Christie, I'm talking about the Nancy Drew Hardy Boys books. They're dated. They were of a time and a place and an era. And I really wanted to sort of recreate those friendships, but make them very contemporary. And that's sort of where this initially blossomed from. And what was important to me was that the stories I'm telling underneath that feel like very real world in this day, in this age. And so I think the hardest part for me is deciding more on the story than on the characters themselves. I love the characters, and finding their emotional growth for me is actually sort of very easy. There's a great deal of affection, but I don't want to just say, oh, and here's the easy mystery of who left the chalk on in the classroom. So it's about where are those layers and why are they important and why am I telling this? And that for me takes a while.
And do you feel I feel this so that's why I'm asking, I'm projecting. Do you feel the need to one up yourself over, okay, I've done 3 stories this way and I've covered that and good on me, I've done a tremendous job. But if I'm going to do this again, it's got to be bigger. It's got to be something more we haven't seen. Let's take Sid to a new, deeper place, while still retaining some semblance of obviously the character and the things about the series that readers have come to love. Do you feel that pressure that if you were to come back to forth, it can't just be Sid goes Hawaii and Sid comes back? It's got to be something that's going to justify a 4th adventure? Or do you feel the kind of comfort where it could be like James Bond and there's always another one, you can just keep it going that way?
No, I think I'm going with your first option there. I'm going with option A. That is the whole trick. The trick is where are they going to go? They being this group of 5 friends, occasionally 6, sometimes 7 friends, and where are they moving through life? And what does that mean for Sid and in terms of where they're going, et cetera, so forth? Because otherwise you are going back to, a serialized book in which the comfort is no one ever changes. We know that this will be this person and this is where they'll be and this is what they'll do. And there's comfort in that, but that's not what I'm writing.
Well, I definitely flavored that question with my own personal bias, although there's absolutely nothing wrong with recurring comfort reading, where it's this character will always be learning some variation of the same lesson, doing some variation of the same things. I like that. It's nice. It's very comfortable. It's just not something that I've yet managed to tackle. Maybe I will. Just as of now, not yet. So for folks that haven't just read On a LARP, if you would, because I'm terrible about summarizing other people's books and other people's biographies, especially since I'm talking to you and you're right here and could do a better job of it, would you give esteemed audience kind of an overview of the series?
Well, as we were talking about, this series is Sid Rubin is the lead of the series, and she has a group of friends. They are in their senior year in high school. She's a group of friends. They are Jimmy, Imani, Vikram, and Ari, and then the occasional people that have come to populate the world over time. But that's where it begins, and it begins on a sort of chance mystery. These are 5 children who are at an elite public school in New York. And they are incredibly bright kids. I wanted to do a story where the kids are incredibly bright. They come from families, they have their problems, they have this, but they all have families, they have homes. This is Sid, for those who do not know, this is an out lesbian. She's not coming out. These are just a group of 5 friends who fall into a mystery. And the mystery eventually, as it turns out, Sid looks at the woman in the paper and she looks at the outfit the woman's wearing. There's a photo of this person who's been discovered in the streets of New York, and says, oh, she was LARPing. And that is what begins the journey into the world of mysteries. Is she's trying to tell the cop that the officer at this police station that they are at for a school function. As you can see, I do a rotten job of summarizing my own books. Thank you very much. They are there for a school function, and she says they were LARPing. And the officer says, over time, what were you talking about? And of course, once they know there's interest, they're 5 kids. They need to find their answer for themselves, and that's how they fall into it. And then as the series grows, it grows through different adventures that are all, as I like to say, zero-sum game takes place in the internet gaming world. And then Say Her Name has to do with 2 different worlds and a lot to do with identity. I'm very proud of this book. It has to do with the historic slavery world in New York and also the deaf community, just the current status of the deaf community as Sid gets a girlfriend who is from that community, and what that means and how that works for her.
So why? I mean, oh yeah, no, that was a great summary. You're doing fantastic. People who haven't read On a LARP are clicking on the buy button right now. It's already on its way to them. It's if I started with the carousel, and I read that and I said, okay, well this is who Stefani Deoul is. I feel like I can expect her next book. Never in a million years am I imagining the next book is going to be on a LARP. So what was it that made you wanted to not depart completely, because obviously there's still the same DNA in there, but what was it that attracted you to, I've got to be in New York, I've got to do live action role playing games, I've got to do the deaf community? What brought you there?
Don't we all wonder about that, Muse?
You'll note I'm not volunteering to answer the question myself.
That's it's an interesting question. Carousel had flirted in my mind for a long time. I had that opportunity and I took it. And then I would say there are 5 years between the first book and the second book. And that had to do with, I went off to do a show, so I was kind of busy. But also, I just didn't know what I wanted to write next. The Carousel is a very emotional book. And it was, so I didn't have any interest in sequeling that. It is a standalone. It was not something I was like, so I just didn't know really what I wanted to write next. And as you know from the process, you commit a lot of yourself every time you sit down. So I wasn't really sure what it was. And I would think of an idea and I would think, And then I kind of knew that I really wanted to do something in the young adult world. I think some of the writing going on in the young adult world is extraordinary. I remember reading Ready Player One and just thinking, wow, I wish I'd written that book. That book is so cool, and different things.
That would be amazing on film or TV. You should definitely get the rights to that if they're available.
Exactly. I remember reading Harry Potter and the transformational abilities of J.K. Rowling. I can't say enough. I mean, let me just fangirl it.
We all. For those of you listening, I'm pointing to my Harry Potter action figures above. We're all there.
So, I look at all, and so I kind of really was drawn to this idea. And then I would think of something and say, oh, this person did this and they did this better than I probably will. And, because you're looking for something that uniquely belongs to you. It doesn't mean somebody else hasn't written a young adult mystery wheel. It's just uniquely, it comes from you and belongs to you in a way that you can transform it and not be derivative. And one day I just had, and I do have to say, I believe that I owe this to a chance meeting at, well, the meeting was not by chance, but I went to Comic-Con in New York and being blown away by Comic-Con. And then meeting with these two gentlemen that I'd been there to meet who were running this LARP that had been going on for years and was enormous. And just really saying, I'm going to use that one day. And it just and that's where it came from. I mean, literally it became a series of events that fed into something that was mine to write, and I knew that. And that's when I sat down and wrote again.
So what's the way to phrase this? Badly, probably, but what's the most Stefani Deoul aspect of the story, do you feel?
Well, according to my brother, it's Sid.
Do we get some idea of who you were at 17 as we're reading On a LARP?
I like to say you get some idea of who I wish I was at 17 as you're reading On a LARP. And that's with her good parts and her bad parts. I mean, I think Sid is a version of me in the sense of I wish I had aspects of Sid at 17 that I didn't have. So there is that part of Sid, but I think there is not a question that Sid and I are linked on certain levels.
Gotcha. So that would be why it might be comfortable for you to continue writing about her in some respects forever. Let's see what happens to Sid at age, I don't know, 57. Let's see what happens to.
No, I think I'm really happy with Sid at 70.